Hello, my fellow comic book collectors. It's Alan, the Comic Collector Geek, and Merry Christmas. This is the Wednesday show. It just happens to be Christmas. I'm pre-recording this, actually, but I just wanted to say Merry Christmas to everyone watching. I hope you're enjoying your time with your families and so forth. But this is the Wednesday video where I answer your questions. So it's the Christmas edition. So each week, people ask me questions, and the following week, I answer them. So let's get into the questions for this week. First question comes from K. Munin. On your December 16th live stream, you mentioned Futurama had comics produced. Are the stories taken directly from the show, or are they unique to the comics themselves? Yes, they're unique to the comics themselves. Futurama actually ran for 82 issues. I actually have Futurama #1, but I have no idea where it is in my collection. I was like looking around for it to try to show it, but it's actually quite a pricey book. I was surprised. I actually looked it up to see how much it goes for. It's kind of a pricey book. So if you ever see Futurama books in the wild, pick them up because they go for crazy money, actually. So just a tip on on that, but they are unique stories to the series. They were done by Bill Morrison, actually. Next question comes from AJ Guez. The other day I was watching an old YouTube with you and Keston from Keston Old School Comics. In the episode, you said that at the time, perhaps the huge Golden Age key, Phantom Lady 17, may have been misattributed to Matt Baker. Do you still maintain that? And how do you resolve it? Merry Christmas. Okay, so I'm going to show you. This is a bit of a study about boobs, actually. I want to show you my copy of Phantom Lady 17. So here it is. Phantom Lady 17, and this is a classic cover. I actually do believe it's done by Matt Baker. However, I don't believe it's all Matt Baker. So let me explain that. So if you look at the hair, that is quintessential Matt Baker. Crazy hair, the hair has a life to itself. That very much Matt Baker. Now, if you look at the chest, though, the girl has big boobs. That's why this is a famous cover, a notorious cover, because it is considered a headlight cover. Now, that is not the way Matt Baker draws boobs. It sounds weird, but that's not the way he draws boobs. That is very Al Felstein way of drawing boobs. And I'll show you what I mean by that. First, I'll show you a few. I'll show you an example of a Al Felstein girl, and if you look, see how like the boobs are very, it's very headlight-ish. This is a junior comic by Al Felstein, and you can see that sort of style where it's sort of a wet T-shirt kind of look to it, where it's very clingy. Well, if you look at this, it has that same kind of look to it. Now, back in the day, the artists would kind of work together, and they would help each other with the art. That was very common practice. Now, if you look at Matt Baker's art, I'll actually give you one more example of another Al Felstein. See how that kind of style of boobs, bigger boobs. Now, if you look at Matt Baker stuff, the previous issue, this is a Matt Baker. You can see the woman is much smaller breasted. Again, the hair is very Matt Bakerish. You get that kind of very lifelike hair, very lively hair, as if the hair has a bit of life to it. But the boobs are small. And I'll give you a few more examples. His women are generally kind of a little bit more flat-chested. Not like totally flat-chested, but, see, these are Matt Baker girls. You can see none of them, the boob style is very different. Okay? And if you look at pretty much all Matt Baker's covers, they're like where he does the full thing, it's always this kind of style. That's why I really doubt that he was the one responsible for the cover. I mean, that portion of the cover for Phantom Lady 16. See, the women are always like this kind of smaller boob style. I know it sounds weird, just, but it is what it is. It's like the women's breasts are very Matt Baker's ones are much smaller. So that's really the reasoning that I have for why I think Phantom Lady 16. And if you look at it, I look at that and I see Al Felstein whenever I see the boobs. But definitely Matt Baker influence as well. So I think it's the two artists working together to create a piece. And as I said, that was very common back in the day. So actually, I have a book that was written about Al Felstein where they actually mentioned that as well. So I'm not the only one that had that, epiphany that it's probably Al Felstein influence there, or work on it. Okay, so next question comes from Dead Man. You asked a question about quality characters being bought by... You were asked a question about quality characters being bought by DC. I was wondering, now that comic and comic characters are entering the public domain, is it the date they were created or the date the character was last bought that they count from? So generally what they do is when they buy a character, they generally kind of make it their own. So if you look at DC's Phantom Lady, for example, they bought that character from Quality Publishing. Well, what they did is they gave her a very different look. So the original Phantom Lady was a blue outfit. As I said, if you just saw the picture, the newer DC one, she had like a green collar and a yellow top. That change allows them to renew the copyright for it. So if the original Phantom Lady is actually in the public domain, the new version of Phantom Lady is not. So that's kind of the way it works. So if you kind of tweak the character, make it a new character in a very slight way, then you can refresh that copyright. That's how it works. It's kind of a weird way, but that's what they do in order to maintain copyright a lot of the time. They'll tweak the character to hold the rights to it. Mark Webb wrote, "I'm a big fan of Watchmen. I just wanted to get your thoughts on the 2009 movie, and the 2019 TV series, the Before Watchmen comics, and the recent 2-part animated movie." I didn't actually watch the animated movie yet. The Before Watchmen comics, I haven't read those yet, so I can't really comment on those. I can comment on the 2009 movie, which I really love. It's one of my one of my favorite comic movies. I really love the Watchmen movie. I thought it was great. The way it's done is it's almost precise to the comics. There's a few things that they edited. There's no squid monster, but they kept almost frame for frame to the comic, which is pretty awesome. I thought it was well acted, and I just thought it was really well done. Just great movie. The 2019 TV series, I did not watch. I kind of started watching, and then there was just too much revisionist history that I'm a very big history buff. I really love, digging deep into history. And when they did the whole Tulsa massacre, where only 30 people actually died, and most of them, like 10 were white, and actually the other were black. It was very skewed history around that event. So I didn't, once they got into that kind of racial stuff, I lost interest. I didn't want to get in, I didn't go into watching the whole series. So I felt, I just I didn't really get interested in it. So yeah, but I thought the movie was great. So hopefully, hopefully, I'm not offending anyone there. Okay, so next question comes from Matt Likes Comics. Steven had a Lady Luck action figure made for you. What other Golden Age good girls would you be happy to get for a collection of action figures? So probably Black Cat. I'd like to get a Wonder Woman one, which is not, which is one that you might not think of. I actually did get not just the Lady Luck one that you can see sort of behind me. It's behind me. I actually got this one to go with my Chamber of Chills right in front of me there. So, I do think they're kind of cool. I wanted to get Miss Mask. I really like Miss Mask. So if you're not familiar with Miss Mask, here's Miss Mask. I'd really like to see her as an action figure. There was a set that came out that I missed out on, and that had all the different characters done as action figures, and I sort of waited on it, and it sold out. I was like, oh man, I'm such an idiot. But it was a nice set of all the action figures. I wish I had kind of just bought it, not even thought about it, just bought it, but I didn't. So I missed out on that one. So yeah, so those are some of the ones I would like to see. Miss Mask would be definitely up there. Phantom Lady would be another one that I'd like to have. So those are some of the characters. I Like What I Buy wrote your top 5 Lois Lane covers. What are my top 5 Lois Lane covers? So I'm going to show you them. First one, I just love this cover. It's like, if you know Lois Lane, you'll get why I like this so much. It's Lois Lane number 14. And I just actually like the way Lois Lane looks. She's kind of dressed like a Batwoman. And it's just cool. Superman's coming in through the window. And here you got like this autographed poster, photo of Batman, where it says, "To Lois with all my love, Batman." It's just like she's always like two-timing, and she's such a bad girlfriend. I just think I think it's just a funny cover. So that's number 5. Another one, sort of similar idea, but going a little bit further with it. She's in this one, she's marrying the devil. It's just so great. It's like, yeah, it's Lois Lane's either trying to like go with some other guy, or she's like either that, or she's trying to kill Superman. So this is 103. And this is a classic one. This is Lois Lane number 106, which is her I'm Curious Black issue, where she becomes a black woman for a day. Just such a crazy story. Actually well written, but just kind of silly. Yeah, kind of an interesting one. But really funny cover. This cover is just insane to me. That's why it's on the list. Really, I actually keep on buying it every time I see it because I think it's such a crazy cover. It's Lois Lane number 73. And this one is like, she's got Superman in these kryptonite bonds while she's whipping a dummy with a cat of 9 tails. Just crazy cover. Like, just what's going on? Like, very S&M like. And this is coded book. It doesn't even make sense. How did this get past the code? I don't know. So yeah, I just always thought that was crazy. And the last one, and this is my favorite cover. I love this one because it's a cat fight between Catwoman and Lois Lane. And you got Superman, and he's in this kryptonite cage turned into a cat. And it's super pussy. It's just such a crazy cover. It's also a go-go check one, which is fun. Just a great book. And this is the first Silver Age Catwoman as well. Really cool book. So those are my favorite Lois Lane covers. There's a few others that are really up there as well. Like there's one where she's kind of like Gulliver's Travels like, and she's like pinned down. That's another great one. There's another one where it's like her and two other girls are in bondage, and that's another cool cover. I think it's like her and what's her name, Rose and Thorn, that are in bondage. Just really cool covers. Okay, last question comes from Adrift. You've been collecting comics for a long time. Can you name any exceptionally negative experiences you've had buying or selling? How about really positive experiences? Have you found that there are certain types of sellers, and if so, can you briefly describe those types? Okay, so I'll give you one really negative experience and then one really positive experience. One of my really negative experiences was I was really into Bone, the character from the 90s. And I was really excited because I've been putting out the word within the comic book community where I was living in Nova Scotia. And really hard to get Bone in that location. But I was putting out the word that I really wanted to get the first appearance of Bone, and which is Bone #1. And I was just constantly telling, like, at the time there was like lots of shops, like there was like 10 or so shops in the city, and I was going to all of them, telling them that talking it up, that I really wanted this book. And somebody said, hey, look, there was a signing from Jeff Smith, and we picked up issues 1 through 3 of Bone, all first prints. And I was like, yeah, I'd be totally interested in it. And they said, oh, it's like $300, which was a lot of money back then, especially for me, who I was really poor at the time. I was a college student, not much money. It's just like really poor. That was big money. That meant not eating for a month, basically. Really, like it was ramen, or not even ramen. Ramen's too expensive. It was Mr. Noodles pretty much for a whole month, almost 2 months to pay for that. Like I went, I spent like maybe $5 on food rather than, and I saved up so I could buy this, $300 set of comics 1 through 3. Now, when I had gotten the money, they had saved the books for me, which is awesome. They were mint. They were mint copies. The clerk, as I was coming in to pick up my books, he was so proud that, I had paid so much for them, that he was putting price stickers onto the comics as I was walking in. So I caught him by he had almost put it on issue #3, but he had already put it on issues 1 and 2. So I stopped him. I'm like, stop! What are you doing? Like, it was just the craziest thing. So he ruined the first 2 copies of #1 and 2. They had these stickers that were the worst type of price stickers, that just the kind that really sticks and leaves like a residue. So that was the worst experience. It was such a letdown after saving all that money. And I got the books. They actually ended up giving me issues 4 and 5 as well, first prints. So I got issues 1 through 5, but I was still very depressed after that had happened. So that was one of my most negative experiences. One of my most positive experiences was, I want to say, Jerry the Jitterbug. We were sort of friends through having started our channels roughly around the same time. So Jerry the Jitterbug, we both sort of grew our channels roughly around, like, in parallel with each other. We were sort of, I would pass him, he would pass me. I think he's ahead of me now. But we became good friends through just sort of watching each other's videos and just sort of commenting on each other's videos. And he reached out to me because he had a collection that came up to him. Like, a collection was brought up to him, and he picked out a few books that he wanted from the collection, but there was a bunch more that he didn't want. And he said, hey, would you be interested in these books? I'm like, sure. and the collection was selling for really, really cheap. Really, really cheap. In the collection was Walt Disney Comics and Stories #1. There was also a Looney Tunes #1, and a whole bunch of Carl Barks art, not art, but early comics, key comics for Carl Barks, key stories. And I was like, wow. So I just picked all of them up, and I think I paid like $1,500, which isn't bad considering there was probably about $15,000 worth of comics. It was just a huge thing, and I actually really appreciate Jerry for reaching out to me and telling me about this collection. And I was like super excited to pick it up. He actually, one of the books that he picked up was a really awesome one. He picked up 4-Color #16, which is the first appearance of Mickey Mouse in comics. This was just an amazing collection. It was like I think it was like a law office that had this just set of comics that they would let the kids read that were sitting in this law office. And it was like running during the 40s when all these big books came out. So they didn't think anything of them. And they were just these really valuable early Disney and Looney Tunes books. Just a great collection. I was super excited to get that. That was probably my biggest score of all since collecting comics. So that was probably one of my best experiences. I was super excited when I got those books. I was like, wow, this is, I'm so excited by it. Now, in terms of certain types of sellers, there's the typical, like almost Simpsons-like character, like the fat, actually it's like such a typical comic collector. But store owner, he's sort of fat and like sort of a grouchy character in the Simpsons story. That is a real person in so many shops. I've experienced that character so many times. Fortunately, my current comic guy is not like that. But some of my previous comic shops, the guy was always so grumpy, and he'd always like, whatever the price was, like the fair market price, they would always double it. That's sort of typical comic seller. Then there's others that are I feel like they're almost trying to give away their books. I love those kind of sellers. And they always seem to have great books, and they always seem to be very low on the prices. I love those kind of sellers. I've seen those a few times. There's others that one of the ones that I experienced growing up in Nova Scotia was he would sell modern books. If you wanted to get any modern key, easy to get from him. And he would, price it reasonably fair. Anything older, he had like Golden Age, he had Silver Age, he had all these great books, but he wanted a crazy price for them, and you really had to become friends with him in order to get those books, because he was not giving it to just anybody. Those kind of dealers I've seen a lot of, where they really hold those big books close to their chest, like they don't really even tell anybody that they have them. It's a really odd type of seller. And then there's the ones that are sort of sellers who are also collectors. You can really sense those ones. Maybe that's most of the ones that I know are kind of like that, where if you can, that's generally why I trade books when I go to comic conventions, because I can tell a lot of them are collectors and then sellers. So I usually bring some books that I know I can tempt them with. I find that those are really good people to work with. And they really appreciate the books. Those kind of sellers I really like, because they know what they have, and they really understand and appreciate them. And then there's the tip of some, like I've seen this a lot too, where you get these sellers that don't know anything about comics, and they just happen to sell comics. I don't know why they got into selling comics, but they sell comics. They don't know anything about the books. They might have a price guide that they look it up, and I hate the ones where they don't price anything in the store. You have to take the books up to the cash register, and they'll either look it up on eBay and they'll say, oh, look, somebody's selling it for X crazy dollars, and that's the price of the book. You know, it's like, what? Or they'll look it up in the guide, and then they'll overgrade their books, and it's really annoying. That's one of my pet peeves, is when they don't price the books in the store, and then you go up to them, and then they price it out. It's like, no, you price the books. Give me, and then the one other thing that's a sort of a pet peeve with sellers is where they're not really willing to negotiate. Some will just, this is the price, buy it or not. That's it. I like negotiating. I'm a wheeler dealer kind of guy in terms of buying books. So those are the ones that I've experienced. I don't know. I'd like to hear people's comments about their experiences with comic sellers. Yeah, so that's it for this video. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. If you have a question you would like answered, it'll be in the new year. It'll be literally in the new year, but January 1st will be when it will drop. So it'll be a year before I answer the question. So yeah, put the comments in below, and I will answer the questions next week. Okay, bye for now.